All right, so we have talked about solving systems of equations by graphing, and we remember solving a system of equations is basically figuring out what point lies on both this line and that line. What's a point that satisfies this line and a point that satisfies this line? So when we graph them and find the point where they cross, and that's the solution, right? Well, sometimes graphing isn't as easy as other options because sometimes graphing, we don't have graph paper, maybe you don't have Desmos, maybe they cross at a really odd place and it's hard to figure out that exact coordinate. So we have algebra to solve it as well. And one of the options we have with algebra is substitution. And basically with substitution, we are going to say, well, we don't know how to solve an equation with two variables, with just one equation. We don't know how to solve just that one equation right there. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to get one variable all by itself, and then we're going to combine these two equations into one, and then solve for the remaining variable. So it sounds maybe a little more complicated than it is, but let's take a look at this one. So this says y equals negative 7x minus 1, and this says y equals x minus 9. Okay, so this says y equals that, and this says y also equals that. So y equals negative 7x minus 1, but it also equals x minus 9. Well, so if this equals y and this equals y, then they should equal each other, right? So now look, we only have one variable and we can solve for that variable. So we're trying to get this down to just one variable and then we solve for that one. So we're going to add 7x to both sides. We have negative 1 equals 8x minus 9. We're going to add 9 to both sides and we have 8 equals 8x. Divide both sides by 8 and we have x equals 1. So what we're saying is that at this point, where these two lines cross, x is equal to 1. Now we have to figure out what y is equal to. Well, y should be equal to the same thing at both of these, on both of these lines, right? Because when x equals 1, this is the point where these two lines cross. So if I plug 1 into either one of these for x, I will get out the output, or the y value at that point. So let's just plug it into the bottom one because that one's easier. X minus 9. So we have y equals 1 minus 9, so y equals negative 8. So what we're saying is that at this point where these two lines cross, x is equal to 1 and y is equal to negative 8. So there's our solution for that one. Let's take a look at this one. This one isn't quite set up as easily. And so the way that we could do this is we could set this one equal to, we could get this one in so that y is all by itself, and then we could set them equal to each other, and that would be fine. But there's another method that works with substitution, and if you notice, y is by itself. So we say y equals this whole mess, right? Y equals this entire mess. Well, here's y right here as well. So let's write this 7x plus 3y equals 42, okay? Well, we know that y equals negative 5x plus 30. That told us right here, y equals this. So what we can do is we can plug that in right there to the y, and then we only have one variable again, and we can solve. So again, we have 7x plus 3, and then it's multiplied by y, and y is this whole thing, negative 5x plus 30. And that equals 42. And now we can solve this because we only have one variable and we can get that variable by itself. So you guys love to distribute. That's the first thing we're going to do. So we're going to distribute. So we start with 7x, and then we get minus 15x plus 90 equals 42. Combine like terms, we end up with negative 8x plus 90 equals 42. Subtract 90 from both sides. We get negative 8x equals negative 48. Divide both sides by negative 8, and we get x equals 6. So again, the point where these two lines cross has the x coordinate of 6. So now we just have to figure out the y coordinate of that same point. So we plug x back into either one of these and we solve. Well, let's plug it into this one. So we say y equals -5 times 6 plus 30. So y equals -30 plus 30. So y at this point equals 0. So the point where these two lines cross, or the solution, is 6, 0. And that's your solution.